Prince, that was promised. Shohei Ohtani is an LA Dodger, 10 years, $700 freaking million. Welcome to the sweat, everybody. Yeah, part of the pregame power-up, sure. We'll go ahead and call it 4 hours and 45 minutes of NFL coverage today because, yes, we got to start with the biggest, largest, fattest, thickest deal in sports history being signed by Brohey. Bukes, you're a massive baseball dude. I'm going to start with you here. Please tell me how mind-boggling this deal was. He's not even going to pitch, this two-way superstar, not even going to pitch until 2025.
Yeah, the Dodgers just kind of said, look, we know the player that you are. You're most likely going to pitch again at some point. We're just going to give you everything that you're owed, right? Because like when this contract was being talked about, we said this is the worst timing possible that injury could have happened to his elbow because he's about to head into free agency. What's it going to look like now? Like our team's going to pay less because they're technically not going to be getting that two-way player that they thought they were going to get. And now the Dodgers have just gone out and given him the fattest contract in history. And I said this on Twitter yesterday, like this feels like we've hit the ceiling now with contracts in Major League Baseball. Like we've seen these massive contracts being handed out, and exactly. But it's like so. Like
Trout, the highest at 420.
Yeah, 424.
And poor Trout,
clear that
losing his buddy here.
Yeah, but like now this feels like okay, this is officially the ceiling in Major League Baseball. Like it's going to be a long, long time until we see a massive contract like that. Because like the next big contract that is most likely going to be coming up is Juan Soto. He's going to be a free agent after this upcoming MLB season. He's super young. Like, you remember, he came into the league when he was 19 years old. When he hits free agency, I think he's going to be 26 years old. So, like, literally the prime of his career, going to be a free agent, going to get a massive contract. But it's not going to be that 10-year, $700 million that we just got here with Shohei. So, huge contract. Obviously, the free agent pool can start now.
Yes.
Everybody was like waiting for this to happen.
The dam has been broken. So, like, I was going to ask you kind of the impact, the fallout of this. And now what? Other teams out there can start to turn their attention to dudes who are available right now and actually start building up their roster, building up their lineups here in the offseason.
Yeah, now the next big move, I think, is going to be with Yamamoto coming over from Japan. Probably the second most highly coveted free agent in this pool this season here. Yamamoto, obviously coming over from Japan, has won, multiple awards over there. Like, his numbers are just absurd, off the wall with how good he's been. There's going to be a lot of teams vying for him this upcoming offseason now because he is the top ace in this free agent market, despite him never even pitching in Major League Baseball. But we've seen, if you watch his stuff on YouTube, like he's just got absolutely nasty stuff there. And this is why so many teams are going after him. This is why Steve Cohen flew out to Japan personally to talk with his agents to see if he can get him over to the Mets, because we all know how well that went when they went and got a bunch of starting pitchers last year. But yeah, so that domino needed to fall with Ohtani. Now I think we're going to start to see a flurry of moves in this MLB free agency.
Yeah, so biggest winners of this deal, obviously Ohtani, the Angels, maybe up-and-coming two-way prospects here. The AL West, he's no longer around. Ohtani's dog, who's going to have the most delicious pure dog treats for the rest of his life now. But Josh, the odds didn't move a whole lot in terms of World Series favorites for the Dodgers, right? Like I was talking to Steve about this before the show. Went from, what'd you say, like
it was 6 to 1, and that was at plus 550.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it hasn't moved a ton here. Obviously, Dodgers are a team year in and year out that's going to be, at the top of the list here for winning the World Series. But to me, this contract, it speaks to a few different things. One, I want to know what was the deal with the Toronto Blue Jays? What was
they got to be one of the biggest losers.
Yeah, huge loser. And then again, were they in the race? Was it a last-minute decision? Was that a smokescreen? We had all those different tweets coming out the other day. Is he on his way to Toronto? Is he not? But Dodgers, I think you got to give this team so much credit. They got out ahead of this one years ago. Their payroll last year, I think, was only $158 million. They had a lot of contracts off the books. They saved up this money. Again, obviously he's going to pay dividends, not only in terms of just, revenue, but, marketing and things of that nature. But they could have signed him 10 years, $500 million. We would have said, what a great deal. 10 years, $600 million. $700 million is just an incredible number. But again, there's smart people that run the Dodgers. They're saying that this is going to be a profitable investment long term. And if you can throw out a top 3 of Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, and they mentioned they do have money maybe to go after Yamamoto. Again, if you're a Dodgers fan, you love this. They spend the money. I wish the Red Sox would spend money like the Dodgers, Emerson.
Yeah,
Red Sox offered 3 for 30.
Yeah, they're like, come on, dude, it's Boston. You get to play in this 300-year-old ballpark.
I will say real quick, I believe when the news was coming out that he was supposedly flying to Toronto, the World Series odds for the Blue Jays fell to 8-1.
Yeah,
they're 14-1 now.
Yep.
So that's tough. If
that's
you took
similar, just comparing markets like NBA-wise, when Lillard was going to Miami, how they dipped, and then he went to Milwaukee, and it just tumbled down. That's a pretty similar situation.
So if you grab Toronto at 8-1, you're sitting at 14-1 now. So you got some really bad value there, obviously.
Yeah. So Dodgers now World Series favorite plus 550, National League winner plus 275. The Braves right behind him at plus 340 in Atlanta today. We got some football being played here, Jules.
Can I make a baseball projection first?
Sure, go ahead. We were going to go ahead and move.
The Dodgers, I don't even, I'm not a baseball guy. The Dodgers got swept out, right, this year? Was it a sweep?
Ooh,
Arizona. Right?
So you have a hot take here. They're not going to win a World Series.
I'm just going to say the Dodgers are going to do the same thing they always do. They're going to fizzle out of the postseason and come up short. Ohtani's not even pitching this year. They still need a pitcher. Added a great bat. It's awesome. It's a great business deal, I think, for both sides. The Dodgers are going to do the same thing. The Dodgers are not going to the World Series this year.
All right.
That's all.
All right. Good stuff, Jules. Thank you.
I have no other wars
well-known
or
baseball
or,
lover. No more analytics, anything like that.
Stats are for nerds.
Let's get to football because this is the pregame power up here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. It's really good to have you here this morning with us, folks. NFC South. That's where we will start. We will start in Atlanta here. The Bucs coming to town. Jules, Falcons winning the first meeting 16-13. Yeah, barn burner back on October 22nd, and a victory here for Atlanta would provide cushion in the NFC South race. Do you like a bet in this game?
I don't like a bet in this game, but I think I would lean to the Falcons at home. I typically like to back Atlanta at home. I don't know why they keep messing around with the quarterback situation. I think they had something in Taylor Heineke and could have just let him go. Tampa, Tampa's been so up and down this season. They can show up. Will they show up? And Baker Mayfield has been steadying in ways for them. I just think there's no more inconsistent division than the NFC South. So if I'm betting on NFL where I want to pick my spots, betting on an inconsistent division with some of the worst teams where we're going to get some of the strangest results, this is probably a game that I'm going to be leaving off my card.
All right, Josh, I will say Falcons 2-0 ATS since turning back to Desmond Ridder as the starter.
Yeah, and Ridder has been pretty good at home. The splits home road are huge here, difference-wise. But I'm going to go with the Bucs in this one, Emerson. I like the line move toward the Bucs. I have a prop bet for you, too. But the Bucs actually opened getting 2.5 or 2. This line is down to 1 at some shops. So this line is going to the Bucs. It could be a teaser play if you can find 1.5, 2, and take that up through 7, go through some key numbers. 50-50 line move. Public split down the middle, yet it's falling to the Bucs. What's the reason for that? 50-50 line shouldn't move at all. Tells me some respect and money on Tampa Bay. Divisional dog. We have seen also the revenge factor, Emerson. It's always tough in the division for one team to sweep another team. So you mentioned earlier it was a 16-13 game. Total in this one, by the way, did tick up a little bit. It was like 40-41. Still lean under there a little bit. But my prop bet is Cade Otton over 25.5 receiving yards. It's juiced up over -130. He's 5-1 over that number his last 6 games. He's 4th on the team in targets in his last couple of games. 4 for 45, 4 for 49. He played Atlanta earlier this year and he had 5 for 43. So give me Otton over 25.5, and I like either the Bucs regular spread or you can take them up with a teaser.
All right, Bubes, let's go to Panthers-Saints here. Let's just go ahead and get the NFC South out of the way in the show because it is the worst division in football. The Saints are trying to keep up. It looks like Derek Carr is going to start under center here.
I don't know why.
I don't either because we were robbed all of a sudden of a battle of former Heisman Trophy winners with Jameis Winston and Bryce Young here. How do you see this one playing out? We know how bad the Panthers have been at playing football this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to take the under on this one. It's gone up to 39 at this point. I think it was sitting at 38 yesterday, so it's gone up a point. But the Panthers, over the last 2 weeks, which is kind of coincides with the coaching change, have been pretty adamant about using Chuba Hubbard on the ground. I mean, he's seen 39 carries. over the last 2 games now. Now, this matchup against the Saints isn't great. They're allowing an average of 93 rushing yards per game, but the Panthers seem pretty confident in watching what Hubbard does. That also being said, the Saints are just absolutely decimated by injuries on their offense. So we're going to get no Michael Thomas, no Rashid Shaheed. Olave was sick. He is going to be playing, but he didn't practice Thursday or Friday. And then we got Juwan Johnson. I don't think we have a confirmed status on him. He was also questionable as well. So what does that lead to? A lot more of Alvin Kamara, and you can run against Carolina. They are not a good team against the run at all. They have allowed the 4th most rushing yards in the league. So this could be a game where we just see a lot of the ball on the ground in this one here. So what does that lead to? Slower paced game, and that usually leads to some unders here. So I know it's a low total, 39 points. I mean, that's a really low total, but give me the under in this game.
Jules, a matchup of 2 of the worst teams against the spread in the NFL.
Yeah, it's another gross matchup in the NFC South. Like, New Orleans really needs to win this game to stay in the division that they were favored to win and supposed to win. So I do think they'll do that, but the last thing in the world I'm going to do is lay points with a dinged-up Derek Carr. I don't want to lay points with Derek Carr to begin with. I'm not going to do it in this situation. And, you know, we talked about it yesterday on the show. Panthers actually have a decent pass defense. Is it really, or is it just running the ball on them when they're getting blown out? Maybe it's some of that, but I don't trust Derek Carr enough to lay points, and I'm just not betting the Panthers.
Real
so
quick,
I think the Saints win it, but
sorry,
we'll
I didn't
see.
mean to trample
Go
on
ahead.
you. Real quick,
I don't have much
no
to say.
Taysom Hill in this game. No Taysom Hill in this game, so that means Derek Carr throwing potentially in the red zone. That's usually what they don't do.
And
His overpassing
pick sixes.
touchdowns is plus 150.
All right, from 2 of the worst games on the slate today, but now we're going to get to 2 of the best
Start
ones.
with our weakest games.
Hey, start at the bottom now. We hear Eagles, Cowboys, Bills, Chiefs. We'll dive into it more from our conversation earlier the week with Ross Tucker coming up next. What's up, everybody? We're back here at Vitamin C Brewing in Weymouth, Massachusetts. Ross Tucker was in town to call the Navy-Army game at Gillette.
It's Army-Navy, dude.
What are you talking about? You can't say Navy-Army?
It's Army-Navy.
Has anyone ever called it Navy-Army before?
Literally
just this moment?
nobody. Literally nobody.
Well, you're in town for the Army-Navy game, and it is great. And you said, "Lane, let's come hang out."
You know what? In fairness to Emerson, he is from Jacksonville, which
Big
is
Navy town.
Big Navy town.
Exactly.
I actually respect that.
Thank you very much. I'm just honoring my roots. I'm honoring my roots. You know who else is going to be putting Navy first? That's Bill Belichick. But you said, "Hey, let's hang out here." And I said, "Okay, great. Let's talk some NFL."
Yeah.
And I want to start with your Eagles. They just got demolished.
Smoked.
By San Francisco. 49ers really that much better than the Eagles? Or was that just kind of Eagles maybe being a little tired of coming off this gauntlet of a schedule?
Yeah, no, I mean, the Niners are clearly better, but I picked the Niners to win. I think a lot of people thought that was coming, right? I mean, think about the Eagles, right? They have to play the Cowboys, which is a close game that they win. Mm-hmm. They go to Kansas City on a Monday night, come from behind, they win the game. They land in Philly at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday. Then they play the Bills on Sunday of Thanksgiving Day weekend, goes to overtime. So why does that matter, right? We're talking about defensive linemen like Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat playing the most snaps of their career, over 80 snaps. They were on the field for 96 defensive snaps. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, the most snaps of their career by like 20 or 30. And why I think that matters, Emerson, is not because the Niners won, but if you watch the complexion of that game in the second half, Eagles are missing a lot of tackles.
Yeah, dude.
Eagles were getting run on. The Eagles D-line was not getting pressure. It felt like a tired, worn-out team. But also, I would say this, that sounds like an excuse. And you watch that game, schematically, the Niners were ahead of the Eagles. Hurts did not play well. Purdy was almost perfect after the first quarter. So the Niners are a better team than the Eagles.
Yeah.
But you know, every NFL season there's ebbs and flows. The first 5 games, we were all like, oh, Niners.
Good teams get smoked. You can look at the history of Super Bowl winners, and they've always had a couple games in there where they got their ass kicked.
Well, and that's what matters, right? What matters is how do they respond, which makes Sunday night so interesting against the Cowboys because
you got to be a little nervous.
Well,
Cowboys look good.
Cowboys have to win the game.
And they haven't lost at home all season because this is for first place in the division.
Well, and the Cowboys have not been to an NFC championship since 1996. I was still in high school the last time the Cowboys went to an NFC championship game.
It was a good year.
They're not going to get there or go to the Super Bowl as a wild card. They have to win this game. Like, this would be a nice win for the Eagles, right? Nice win for them. The Cowboys have to win. Here's the thing that's crazy, Emerson. You look at their schedules.
I was just going to say, you still have the Giants twice for the Eagles, right?
And the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Whereas the Cowboys have to play the Lions, the Bills, the Dolphins.
And I think they wrap up with the Commanders.
Right, but they have to play Lions, Bills, Dolphins. They're going to lose probably one of those games. So even if the Cowboys win this game, they're probably still going to end up, you would think, runners up in the NFC East, which means the 5 seed, which means a really, really tough road to hoe.
And Dak is in the thick of the MVP conversation right now. And I believe in this series against the Eagles, he's thrown 3 touchdowns last 4 games against Philadelphia.
He kills them. Dak kills the Eagles. And can I just say something about the MVP?
Please.
If the odds change at DraftKings Sportsbook, my favorite sportsbook, my only sportsbook, if the odds change every week, is anybody really that great? Like 2 weeks ago, it was Jalen Hurts.
Well, it's recency bias, you know.
Maybe 3 weeks ago it was Mahomes. 2 weeks ago, Jalen Hurts. This past week, it's been Purdy. And I'm telling you right now, you heard it here first, okay? If Dak plays really well and the Cowboys win the game, I predict Dak will be the MVP favorite after the game, which almost goes to show you, like,
we're not supposed to bet it at that number. You're supposed to bet it before they get to the top 2. You know?
Correct. And honestly, like, you guys, most of you guys are listening or watching this Sunday morning, I would bet Dak now.
Okay.
I would bet Dak now because you're going to get some value on that because if they win the game, and I do think the Cowboys will win the game. I do. The Eagles are still battling back from injuries. This is the tough stretch. Now, I do think the Eagles will win the next 4 games, and they'll still be a 14-3 football team.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Everyone's like panicking. They're 10-2 right now.
It's unbelievable. But I think now would be the right time to get Dak on the MVP odds.
You know, Josh Allen was
Literally, while we're talking about this, Julian is over there. He just put a bet on Dak for MVP over in the side.
I mean, earlier in the season, it was Josh Allen like at the top of the board. Then we've kind of seen what's happened in Buffalo, and now there's some, off-field turmoil and drama and stories being leaked. That's the other big game of this weekend is clashing with the Chiefs here. How is this one going to play out? And please give me overtime.
But you know what's so weird about it? Usually when it's Chiefs-Bills, you're thinking like number 1 seed is on the line, right? This is not that.
No.
But it actually makes it juicier. I mean, the Chiefs, if the Chiefs want to have any hope of the number 1 seed, they got to win this game.
This is the worst scoring offense of the Mahomes era, and you could even argue this is the worst Kansas City Chiefs team of the Mahomes era.
Crazy. Meanwhile, for the Bills, they're 6-6.
I know, but aren't they better than that record? You see something like that game against the Eagles.
Unbelievable.
Incredible.
Unbelievable. It's funny because a lot of people have been asking me about Purdy this week. And, you watch Purdy and he's the MVP favorite now. He doesn't really do anything that wows you. The week before, when the Bills played at the Eagles, like 7 times, I gently nudged my wife and was like, oh, did you see that from Josh Allen right there?
Yeah.
Like he would make a safety miss, or he'd run over a linebacker, or he'd throw a bazooka 60 yards down the sideline. That's one of the reasons, by the way, why people will always, there will be a healthy skepticism of Purdy until he wins a championship, and maybe multiple championships, kind of like a guy that played not too far from here at Gillette, because they don't do anything that wows you. Nobody's like, honey, did you see that great read by Brady there?
The Bills need this more than the Chiefs.
Right, and I would say the Cowboys need it more than the Eagles. The Bills need it more than the Chiefs. And, usually the way the NFL is now, you don't really anticipate a wild card team having a great chance. The Bills are different.
Yeah.
The Bills, like with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, the Bills are gifted enough that they could go on a run.
Right, so we know the Bills need this one more. The Jets just need a quarterback. They're not going to have one this season. I don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. But then there's the story of like Zach Wilson. He's back to being the starter, but the reports that were leaked about him being, hesitant, reluctant to get back into that role. How does that play in a locker room? In an NFL locker room, you've been in many of them.
Honestly, I have 5 different teams. I've never been on a team where there was any question whether or not he wanted to start. I don't really know, other than not well, right?
Yeah.
And so there's only 2 possibilities here. Number 1 is that it's true, which is a really bad look for Zach Wilson. And then number 2, either way, whether it's true or not, somebody within the Jets organization really does not like Zach Wilson.
And Aaron Rodgers was really pissed off about that.
Well, whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
Whoever said that. I will say this about the Jets, though. I have, no compassion. I mean, you see what Joe Flacco did for the Browns last week? That's a professional quarterback. I talked about this
Former
with Greg
Jets
Cosell.
legend, Joe Flacco.
Greg Cosell was on Thursday's Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Professional quarterback, big arm, knows the safety rotation, knows where to throw and go with the football. And yet, these other teams, the Jets, have trotted out 4 guys that aren't close to as competent as Flacco was after being with the Browns for a week and a half or whatever it was.
Well, there's no question.
America's team? Are you talking about America's team?
No, well, I mean, I was going to incorporate him in this.
That was a good point for you to transition to America's
team. Well, I want to stay in that division because now that Trevor Lawrence is a little banged up here, there's no questions under center with Houston and the Texans.
Man, I was wrong about him.
Really?
Wrong. Yeah.
So you didn't expect much out of Stroud? I called him a bust after his first preseason game against the Patriots. He was awful that night.
No, in all sincerity, I thought there was a chance he might be pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought he would really struggle early. You ever watch him at Ohio State? Nobody's within 3 yards of him, and he'll throw a deep post to Olave or Garrett Wilson, and they're wide open.
Well, that's always been the argument with the quarterbacks at Alabama too. It's you have an NFL line in front of you, and and half the time they don't work out in the NFL.
Guess what? Stroud came in. At times, both tackles, Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard, have been hurt. They've had nondescript receivers, right? Tank Dell's been great, but now he's hurt. Stroud's just that good. I can't.
They could win that division.
I want to go back and look at all of the writers, right? I don't remember very many people saying that they thought Stroud was better than Bryce Young. But boy, now it's really looking that way. And I know situations have something to do with it, but man, it would be an upset if Bryce Young now becomes a better player than C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, and it's a mess there in Carolina. Not a mess here, though, at Vitamin C in Weymouth, Massachusetts. Hey, great idea coming here and hanging out. It was a pleasure having you here.
This is the only place I want to do segments from now on for the rest of my life for the sweat, right here, Vitamin C.
Big beer cans behind us sound like.
I love the juggling. I don't know if it's that or my belly.
Sounds like an aquarium.
Delicious.
Good stuff. Thanks, Ross.
All right.
pregame power-up.
Indeed, you are, everybody. And following our show will be the Lombardi line from 10 a.m. Eastern Time to high noon, and then Brent Musburger's countdown to kickoff. Yeah, everybody, welcome to the Wacky Weather Center.
No.
Here. What do you mean, no, Steve? Calm down. There's going to be a lot of wacky weather on today's slate. So what I'm going to do right now is break it down for you. And then these dudes over here on the desk are going to break it down for you from a sports betting perspective. So as you can see, lots of moisture between the Rams and the Ravens expected today. Rain will be falling essentially all game long, and I'm not talking just a little bit of scattered showers here and there. Lots of rain coming down from the clouds in the sky where the rain comes from. Gentlemen, not quite sure what the impact of all this wet weather is going to have on this game. Josh, you tell me, what about the winds here? Whoa!
Yeah, they're coming in hot, Emerson. We got crosswinds, but I would say, luckily for Steve, we were in for a weekend here with some severe weather. It has kind of gotten a little, brightened up here a little bit.
So you're making a big deal about it on Tuesday. We're like 5 days away. You're like, oh no, what's going to happen?
Well,
and then look,
weather can change.
Real run-heavy approach, guys.
I do lean to Steve on that one. I'm just here to be in the middle of the Royal Rumble between Steve and Josh arguing about the weather.
But I would say to the games you're mentioning, Emerson in particular, obviously that Ravens game, we have seen this total fall. This total opened at as high as 43.5. Now you're down to 39.5. The thing with the rain, and you can talk to former NFL players like Avison, Mike Pritchard, a colleague of ours, he'll tell you it's not really the rain, it's not the precipitation, it's not the hot or the cold, it is the wind. So the wind in this one, it's only about 8 to 9 miles per hour, so the rain is more of an issue at this point. But I am kind of interested in taking the points here with the Rams, guys. This game opened at like -7.5 here with the Ravens. Ravens are a big public play. They're getting upwards of 65% bets, but the line's pretty much stayed right where it's at. It's even dipped to 7 at some shops throughout the week. So you have a good road ref here, Scott Novak, cherry on top, 60% ATS to the road team. In a non-conference under in terms of the system match with the weather, you have non-conference unders 41 and 24, 63%. Here's a stat for you, Emerson.
Okay.
Lamar Jackson, he's 11-1 against the spread as a dog. Pretty much you got to play him if he's a dog. As a favorite, laying 7 or more the last 3 years, 1-8 against the spread. I'll lean under, and I'm going to go with the points here with the Rams.
Okay, gentlemen, we got to go to Houston and the Jets right now. We all know Houston loves to throw the football, right? Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's move ourselves over into this neck of the woods right here. This is where the New York Jets play. Listen, there's potential for thunderstorms today.
Oh, no.
And everybody knows thunderstorms worse than just regular rain here, Steve. Sustained winds 10 to 15 miles per hour, possibly a gust of 30 miles per hour. That could blow you right over, Steven. Josh, I need to know the impact of this weather on this game, huh? That pass-heavy attack for Houston could get injured and hurt.
What are you doing? Are you dancing?
What do you mean, dude? I'm a weather guy.
Professional
I'm pointing
weatherman.
out
This is
weather.
Doing really well. I want to give you
what
credit.
they do.
This is
Look at this
legit.
area.
I would say, though, we were asking ourselves the question, why is the line going to the Jets? I mentioned this in yesterday's show. Everyone pretty much laughed me off the studio. But you have seen the move toward the Jets. They were getting 4.5. Now you're down to 3.5. You're juiced up to the Jets. Like, you may even get down to 3. And we're saying to ourselves, what's the edge here? What do wise guys see with the Jets and the points? Maybe it is kind of a bad weather game, rainy, windy. Houston is a dome team, obviously, down south in Texas, where they don't deal as much with this type of weather, especially with a dome team. So maybe that's the angle. A slippery, sloppy, gross game. Maybe keeps this total lower. Again, it opened as high as 39. You're down to 32.5. This was 33.5, Emerson, yesterday. So it continues to fall. Movement toward the Jets. Do you get a 17-14 game, something like that?
Yeah, guys, you can see the wind here on my radar as it is moving from the south to the north, again around the New York area where it is chilly.
Yeah.
43 miles per hour. So if we're talking these big gusts here, guys, the real field temperature, it's going to be even cooler out there. Hands don't work as well in that cold temperature. All right? Steve?
Yeah.
Back to you with sports.
Thank you. Wow, that was just quite a description of whatever we were just looking at.
If there's a weather game the question is, do you play the under on the Jets?
One of the
Houston
lowest
game?
totals on the board here, gentlemen. 32
Now,
and a half.
I'm a little terrified because I am an under better on Thursday Night Football, Patriots-Steelers. Not that the weather had anything to do with it, but it goes over in the first half, and we're dealing with a similar type of total. Like Josh said, this is down a full touchdown, right, from the opening number. So can you deal with getting the worst of the number and still bet this, I guess, is the question. But the Tank Dell injury, I think, on the Houston offense is a big piece of it. Going playing outside at the Jets. If there's one weather game that sticks out to me where you're looking at under, it's that one, even though it's the lowest total on the board, and it's been bet down significantly.
And the other part of this, too, is that, this is not playing into Houston's strength. They are not a run-first team. They're running at one of the lowest rates in the league. They're running about 41% of the time, which is near the bottom half of the league. And then you have whatever's going on with the Jets and Breece Hall. He was being, publicly reprimanded for trying to, extend the runs further than it needed to be, and that's why Dalvin Cook...
What does that even mean?
Right, exactly. But that's
I think that's a good thing.
And that's why Dalvin Cook
farther
ended up
down the field
with 10 carries in that last game. So, if they were, punishing Breece Hall and using Dalvin Cook more, that's even worse. Cook is absolutely
punishing
toast.
Breece Hall for running too far.
Right, but that's what it is. It was such an odd comment for them to make that they were, basically reprimanding Breece Hall. So you have... playing into the the Texans' weakness, and then whatever's going on with the Jets' running game, it's too low for me to take the under, but the under is absolutely the play in this game at this point.
And to your point, real quick, Breece Hall over 44.5 rushing yards, super juiced up minus 125. So maybe
it's such a
he's
low
in for a
total
good game.
for him.
Yeah.
It's such a low total for him, but again,
Guys.
weird. What?
We got to go to Cleveland.
Let's go to the Midwest. We got two games in the Midwest.
It's
I know what
in
you're looking at.
Cleveland. The Jags are on the road in Cleveland today facing the Browns, okay? There could be some moisture in the air in
there's
Cleveland.
No, there's not.
Okay?
Could be a
there
drizzle,
may
though,
not
Steve.
be moisture in the air in
not
Cleveland.
You're the weatherman.
There's
tell
going
us.
to be, I'm telling you right now, there's a chance it may be moist. There's a chance it may not be moist.
Wow.
There also could be some winds because you know where Cleveland is? It's on the shores of a Great Lake. That's a massive body of water. This total, Steve, has ticked up to around 34. And all eyes, now as a weatherman, all eyes for me are on the weather, but I'm also looking at Trevor Lawrence, who likely is going to suit up in this game. Josh, the impact not only on the weather will have on this game, but Trevor Lawrence potentially coming in.
There's no weather. There's no weather.
To your point, it has evened out a little bit, Steve. Everything's going your way today, big man. You were
it's
worried
not
about the
going my
bad
way.
weather, and now it's all kind of lightening up a little bit.
Because you were getting all nervous on Tuesday or
I
Wednesday.
see those
There
weather
might-
reports, Steve. I get nervous. I can't help it.
Do you think
know
the
what I'm
under
saying?
maybe had to do with that they didn't even know who was going to play quarterback until this morning?
I'd say that would be a part of it.
Part of it.
So-
It's the whole reason. It's the whole reason. You don't even know who the two quarterbacks are going to be.
But now who we do know the QBs will be, Trevor
down.
Lawrence and Flacco. Huge move here. You opened Jacksonville -3. You flipped all the way to Cleveland -3, but you are seeing some +3 buyback on Jacksonville. Those threes are getting back down to 2.5. I think it's a teaser opportunity. Even if the Jags can't eke out a win here, because again, you got to respect the move toward Cleveland. Take the Jags up 2.5, to 8.5. Go through some key numbers. That could be worth a look. And Flacco, to me, a guy who, again, had you in the game in the first half, kind of fizzled out the second half. But to me, my question, Emerson, is what are we going to see out of Lawrence, your guy, today?
Okay, what you're going to see is a man with heart, grit, determination. I said it on this show
And that
yesterday.
heart, grit,
He's
and
Gumby,
determination makes
he's
us money.
RoboCop, and expect him to go hammer Ridley overs. That's all I'm going to say. Guys, they don't call it the Windy City for nothing, right, with the Bears? Look at these wins right now. Currently, this is another city. Jules, I know geography's not your thing. This is another city
Tell me about
that
it.
is on a large body we call great. A Great Lake indeed. So, these wins, Steve, these wins
This
could
one's legit,
impact
Steve.
some downfield play here, okay? Trust the radar.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about the deep shots when Justin Fields is under center. Because that's definitely his type of game, that he's going these downfield shots by Justin Fields. I mean, sure, this could affect the Lions' game plan a little bit here because there are some actual wins, some actual concerns in this one.
Found
Josh.
one finally.
Yeah, finally. 10 minutes into the segment, we actually finally got something here. But this one is not going to bother me too much because, again, the Bears want to run the ball here. They're doing one of the highest rates in the league, 49% of the time. This is morely going to affect the Lions game overall because obviously they have Gibbs and they have Montgomery, but these are guys that they're using more in the red zone here. I think the Lions actually have one of the highest red zone rush rates in the league, and they're using Montgomery in those points. But I don't think this is a huge deal because it's really only affecting one team in this one.
Cincinnati, going to be chilly today, currently around 39 degrees in the city in which they put chili on noodles. We were talking about this before, Steve, before the show. Weather's going to end up being okay. I think it's around 10 mile per hour gust, right? Browning, good play today, huh?
Yeah, he is a good play. There's no weather to talk
Taking
about
on
in
the
this
Colts?
game. A 10 mile per hour wind, you don't even know what's happening half the time. Is this segment over? Because we're talking about stuff that doesn't even matter at this point.
What's going on?
What's going on? This segment was stupid.
Sharp
It was
dog to fade.
unnecessary.
Bengals move. Money line the Bengals, Emerson.
Emerson, what Great Lake is Chicago on? You said it's on a body
It
of
is
water.
on one of the greatest lakes of them all, Jules.
Oh.
That is for sure. Propped up, coming up next,
Lake
baby.
Michigan,
Scattered
Lake Michigan.
showers.
Superior? Erie.
All right, a lot of Fahrenheit action in that last segment, which is why we're going to turn our attention to the Celsius department with our friend Jeff Ulrich. That's right, that's how he tells temperature up in the Canadian woods of Edmonton. And then also Pierce Dietrich is here to hang out with us. Time for a little propped up segment, gentlemen. We've mentioned the Bills clashing with the Chiefs today. Should be a sexy matchup. Brings with it Mahomes and Josh Allen. So a prop between the two of these dudes that you could potentially be targeting. Jeff, anything stick out to you here?
Yeah, I got a couple for you. And, just for the record, everywhere outside of the U.S. tells temperature with Celsius, but most people
tells me everything I need to know about the states here. We keep it very simple. We don't need to dive into the math and numbers and decimal points.
Sure. Let's go with Josh Allen over 261.5 yards, passing yards. I think this one's pretty simple. Josh Allen, well over this in his first 2 games without Ken Dorsey. The Bills' offense, to me, has looked like a much more efficient, just machine when it comes down to it. Yes, you look at the Kansas City Chiefs this year, very solid defense. They did regress a little bit last week, but I trust Josh Allen in this spot. This is a huge game. I don't think that the Bills are going to be trying to take the ball out of his hands much. I do think the Chiefs offense will bounce back a little bit, should get a back and forth game. I think 261 is just a little bit too low for Josh Allen. I like the over in that.
All right, Pierce Dietrich, where are you going here? And why is it Josh Allen over half an interception? Come on, dudes. It's easy as money.
You know where I'm going. You're way ahead of me, but I do want to admit that one of my greatest regrets in life is not mastering the metric system and figuring out Celsius. So I am a little disappointed, but I'm not disappointed playing the interception, same game parlay, not just Allen. Let's throw Mahomes in there as well. Both of them combined for 23 INTs this season. The Bills, 11th most interceptions on the defensive side. Mahomes, 5 picks in the last 7. Allen's thrown a pick in 8 straight and an interception in all but 2 games. We know how he rolls. Kansas City doesn't have a lot of interceptions on the year, but that's because they haven't faced a lot of pass attempts because they've played pretty good defense. But the Bills will pass a lot. It's what they do. So there's going to be opportunities there. And Kansas City, big-time pressure rate. So I think that's going to force Allen into a mistake. So same-day parlay it. Take Allen and Mahomes to both throw picks.
Oh, baby. Very few things have remained consistent for Buffalo throughout the season. Josh Allen throwing an interception is the closest to a sure thing as you will get with that team. I think a fly just flew into my eye. Anywho, another quarterback prop that you like on the board today, Jeff.
Wow, lots of stuff going on already.
I don't know what's happening.
Let's get a close-up there and just see if we can get that fly out. I like Gardner Minshew to go over his yards. I really like this matchup for Gardner Minshew. You look at the Cincinnati Bengals, all but 2 quarterbacks who faced Cincinnati Bengals this year have gone over 230 yards. And it's not even really been close in most circumstances. This is a defense without their top cornerback in Cam Taylor-Britt. They're a little bit banged up in the secondary as well. But, realistically, they just gave up a ton of yards. We saw it last week. They gave up well over 300 passing yards to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this game, now that the Cincinnati offense has a little bit of juice back with Jake Browning, this game is projected within around 2 points. We're going to get a back-and-forth game here. I don't think that the Colts are just going to be able to hand the ball off to Zach Moss. So the fact that Gardner Minshew's passing total hasn't really risen yet, I think there's still value in taking the over at 230.5. I think you even think about taking Minshew up to like 300 yards, around plus 500 for that in the alternate market. But definitely like the over on Minshew's yards today. I think both quarterbacks will be throwing the ball quite a bit.
Absolutely love that, dude. Some Minshew magic. Pierce Dietrich, another quarterback prop that you are interested in.
Let's go Justin Fields. I don't know if the weather's going to be that great for this game.
Oh, well, hold on. I'm glad you mentioned that. You clearly missed our last segment here. I think it's going to be, about 15, 20 mile per hour gusts. I don't have the blue screen behind me right now, but, it's the Windy City for a reason, Pierce.
Yeah, well, I was more worried about the Celsius, and I couldn't really do the quick math in the 32 divided by 2.9 or whatever that was in my head. Off the fly that just went into your eyeball. Anyway, back to Fields. Let's take the under on his passing total, and also, if you're getting a little frisky, we can take the over on his rushing total. It's the Lions. We've seen what he's done against the Lions in the past. It turns into track in Fields. He runs all over them. We just saw this matchup a couple of weeks ago. 15 of his 18 rushes were designed runs. They go into matchups with the Lions. planning on running the ball and not passing the ball. Look at his last 3 matchups against the Lions. He's not went over 170 passing yards. And in all 3 of those games, he's absolutely crushed the rushing yards, going over 100 in all 3. I like Fields to run and not pass. And yes, the mention of weather as always.
Okay, so 2 degrees Celsius right now in Chicago, and the winds 24 kilometers right now. Okay, now when we're talking weather right now, any of these wet games and windy games may be a good opportunity to target some of these running backs in the backfield. So, a guy like Christian McCaffrey's rushing total 79.5, went over that last week against the Eagles, well over that 2 weeks ago here, Jeff Ulrich, against Seattle. So, targeting him for running back prop, you looking elsewhere, maybe one of these wet, moist, windy games?
I mean, I think that if you're looking, so just because we talked about Chicago, I mean, let's talk about their running back situation a little bit. I do think Roschon Johnson, his prop opened around 14.5 rushing yards. Now it's up to 19.5 rushing yards. That's a big swing. I still think there's value in taking the over here. Last time we saw Roschon Johnson, he was basically taking away all the carries from Khalil Herbert. He was kind of carrying that Bears offense on his back. I know that Donta Foreman is back, but we're talking about a guy who the Bears just drafted versus 2 sort of free agents that don't really have like long-term situations with the franchise. I think Roschon Johnson gets a lot of work here. It's only 20 yards. He needs about 8 carries to go over this. Still like the over with Johnson. The other over I really like is James Cook at 47.5. It's another total that opened around 42, 43.5. It's up to 47.5. But James Cook has taken 12 or more carries in 6 of the last 7 games. He's averaging 4.8 yards per carry. He's 4th in explosive runs, 10 yards or more. It's a very low total for a guy who's going up against not a great rush defense either in the Chiefs. I think James Cook in for a big day. Anything under 50 yards, I would take the over on Cook.
Here's which running back prop do you like today?
Kyren Williams going over his rushing yard total. I think last I checked it was at 67.5, maybe is it what, 80 meters? I don't know. Forget the producers to do the math real quick and convert that for us. I really like what the Rams are doing. I know people see the Rams and they think of Kupp and they think of Puka Nacua and Stafford and think this is a passing team. But Sean McVay, yeah, he does have some great weapons through the air, but he is a running coach. It's in his DNA. When this team was rolling in the past seasons, they were giving the ball to their running back. Even when the Rams were struggling, they were still giving the ball to a cadre of bad running backs. This offensive line is really starting to gel. It looks almost like the shape and form that it had when they went on that Super Bowl run with Andrew Whitworth. They're getting there. I mean, you look at last week, they didn't even give up a sack. I know that's passing wise, but when you don't concede a sack to the Browns pass rush, that's a pretty strong offensive line unit. 88 yards last week from Kyren. I like him going over.
Hey, Pierce, perfect weather for this Vikings game indoors against the Raiders in Las Vegas. Justin Jefferson is back. Receiving prop, 65.5 yards, maybe feels a little low because he's coming back from a long absence, may still not be 100%. You like that, or you want to go somewhere else?
We'll go somewhere else. I want to go with DK Metcalf, and this might sound, strange to some people. San Francisco is a very good team, probably your Super Bowl favorite. They have a very good defense. It's not a great defense. It is a great defense against the run, and in that case, what we have is a bit of funnel that forms because you can't run against San Francisco. You're forced to pass. And when we're taking overs on a receiver, we want opportunities, we want volume. It's going to be there. You're going to pass a lot. I expect DK Metcalf to have upwards of 10 targets against this San Francisco team. Also, San Francisco likes to score points. That forces other teams to be much more aggressive, to play catch up, to pass. I think he at least gets 10 targets. And when we've got a big-time upside potential receiver with Metcalf, all he really needs to do is cash in on a couple of those, and he can go over his total.
All right, Jeff Ulrich, what do you like in the wide receiver prop department?
So I don't mind staying with this Raiders-Vikings game, but the line on Justin Jefferson has moved into the 70s. I would rather look at Jacoby Myers on the other side. You can go over 3.5 receptions on Myers. It's the Minnesota defense that blitzes a lot. They leave their guys in man coverage, but they really only have one good corner in Byron Murphy Jr. Jacoby Myers, gone over this last 2 games with Aiden O'Connell. He's seen 12 targets over his last 2 games, and he probably gets there again.
Jeff Ulrich, very quickly here. Anyone you consider a good bet on 100-plus receiving or rushing yards on their alternate total?
Yeah, I really like the spot for Cortland Sutton this week. He's been just shy of 100 yards in a couple spots. Been very, very good downfield, going up against the weak Chargers defense. I think looking at Sutton in the alternate yards is a really good idea.
All right, Pierce, go ahead.
Jamar Chase over 100 receiving yards. Indy's defensive stats are slightly inflated because of a soft schedule they faced, and I really believe that Jamar Chase and Browning are going to develop as they get more practice time together. We saw in the last game, Chase get 12 targets. I think this is the beginning of a wonderful relationship.
All right, currently 14 degrees Celsius in your neck of the woods, Jeff, so bundle up. Everyone, bundle up for the second hour of The Sweat. We're diving into that Chiefs-Bills game next.
pregame power-up.
You got 4 more hours of the pregame power-up here on DraftKings Network and VSiN to look forward to. 1 hour down of the sweat, 1 more to go, followed by the Lombardi line, 10 a.m. Eastern to high noon. Then Brent Musburger's countdown to kickoff from high noon to Jules 1 o'clock, which marks the kickoff to the early slate of games.
Got it. Makes sense.
Game that's not part of the early slates. Bills at Kansas City.
Oh, yeah. Big showdown.
Yeah, it
Big
really,
one.
really is.
Yep.
This one we know as history, this meeting. All of us hoping, of course, that it goes to overtime. Chiefs here, Steven, have lost 2 of 3 games. They're at home here. And the defense has created just 1 turnover in those games. The good news is, as we just discussed with Pierce and Jeff here on The Sweat, Josh Allen is a turnover machine and has thrown a pick in 8 straight games.
Yeah.
What's your bet du jour in this one, dude?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Chiefs in this one. I feel like we just said not too long ago, it's not often you're getting, Mahomes on such a short line because we had that in the Dolphins game, I think it was, a couple weeks ago, but you're getting that here. And what I do like, too, and while this is a big knock on the Chiefs, is that there's no Pacheco in this game. So that could lead to Mahomes throwing the ball more, and he's had an unbelievable connection lately with Rashee Rice. Obviously, Travis Kelce in the mix there, too, as well. Buffalo has not done well ATS as an underdog. This is only the 3rd time this season that they're underdogs, but they're only 0-2, and that adds on to their 4-8 record overall against the spread, where KC has been a good team against the spread, and that is not something they've been over the past few years. They're 7-5 coming into this game. But I do like the Chiefs in this one here. That was a pretty shocking loss to the Packers, and I think that they need a bounce back here desperately going up against a Bills team who, I'm very heavily invested in them missing the playoffs, so maybe a little bit biased here, but I do overall like the Chiefs in this game against the Bills. I just think the Bills just are kind of lost at this point.
Yeah, and as we mentioned in our segment with Ross on the road earlier in the show, Julian, at Vitamin C Brewing, they've got some drama a little bit off the field. I know they're coming off a bye week here. That's going to help them get ready, you would think, but they are 1-4 straight up in true road games.
Yeah, they haven't been good on the road at all. And, it's kind of a Bills spot. They're off a bad overtime loss at Philly. They get a week to recollect themselves. And now they're going up against Kansas City. But, Steve's one of the first people I've heard say that he likes Kansas City in this game. Everybody's like, Buffalo needs it. Buffalo's got to get this game. The number's coming down. We're getting Mahomes at a pick-em price at home here off a Sunday night loss, off consecutive losses, right? Because they lost the Eagles 1-2. Yeah, give me the Chiefs here. This is one of my favorite plays of the week. Kansas City at home. Not even, we say, give me Mahomes under a field goal at home. Now we're getting pick 'em type of price. Josh Allen has been mistake prone. This Kansas City defense is as good as it has been during Mahomes' tenure here. Josh Allen's going to make some mistakes at Arrowhead on the road in a big game. And we'll see how the Chiefs offense responds. But at some point, they're going to get the calls they need to get. At some point, these guys are going to catch the passes that they need to catch. And this is a good spot to start doing that at home against Buffalo. So you give me this price, I cannot pass on Patrick Mahomes. Pick him at home.
All right, but again, Bills coming off a bye. So, going back to Week 13, entering Week 13, Bills even at a higher point differential than Kansas City, which tells me they're better than what their 6-6 record tells us.
Give me Bills Mafia, boys. Bills Mafia.
Yeah, that's
Let's
right.
Go.
Smother that body and mustard and ketchup.
Whatever it takes. Circle
tables.
the wagon, smother, whatever it takes, Emerson. Buffalo Bills are sharp as attack today. Buffalo Bills open at +3. Buffalo Bills are down to +1.5, +1. Steve isn't the only one. Steve is a part of 68% of bets on the Kansas City Chiefs. Big public play. But if 2/3 of bets are on the Chiefs, why is this line falling here toward the Buffalo Bills? We got smart money on the Bills, only getting 32% of bets in the second most heavily bet game of the night, other than Sunday Night Football. Josh Allen in his career, 16-9 against the spread, 64% ATS, and a massive rest first tired advantage in favor of the Bills. Remember, Bills are off a bye, rested, ready to go. Kansas City, short week, played on Monday at the Green Bay Packers.
Sunday.
Was that Sunday? Sunday night?
Throw that system out.
So, well, still late night and travel, rest first tired.
Late night and
So we'll
travel
take that.
system.
Yeah. And then the other angle here, guys, a lot of injuries for Kansas City. Pacheco's out, Cook, Tranquil, Donovan Smith, their offensive tackle's out. Bills are desperate, fighting for their playoff lives. I think it's a spot here to back Buffalo. You can take the points, you can tease them up. Bills Mafia, circle the wagons all day.
Joel's an impressive 4-game winning streak here for San Fran hosting the Seahawks. think Geno Smith's going to be a true game time decision is what we're seeing with reports.
Yeah, this is a tough game. If Geno doesn't play and it's Drew Lock, like San Francisco should blow them out.
God,
they'll win the game, but this isn't a spot that I can bet San Francisco. They're coming off their, I don't want to say Super Bowl because their goal is the actual Super Bowl, but that's as big of a regular season game as you can play. They had that circled all year after losing in Philly without a quarterback. They say, we go back there healthy, we are going to whoop them. And they went back there healthy, and they whooped up on the Eagles. Now you got to come home, play a divisional opponent that you just played on Thanksgiving. It's like one game in between the 2 games against the Seahawks. Can Seattle go on the road and grind this one out a little bit after they just saw San Francisco and after San Francisco just went all out? I'm not telling you I'm going to bet on the Seahawks. I'm just saying I have more caution than everybody else may have in laying it with the Niners.
It's hard to bet against the 49ers right now, Josh.
Yeah, and they've had the number of Seattle in this situation here. They won 31-13 on Thanksgiving. They beat them in the playoff game 41-23. Last year they beat them twice. One was 23-13, the other one was 27-7. So 3 of the last 4 matchups here, you're winning easily by double digits in this situation. I'm actually going to lean toward laying the points with San Francisco. They open as low as -10. You're up to -13.5. Now the key thing for me is, do we get to 14? Anytime you're around a key number, do you hit the key number? Is there resistance? Does it come back? Do you go through the key number? That's something to look forward to or keep an eye on throughout the day. Do they get to 14? But either way, it's only a 50-50 bet split. This isn't that heavily bet for San Fran. You would think they're getting 80% of bets, blowout win. No, public's undecided, yet line keeps going to San Fran. I'll lay it here with the 49ers. And also, a prop bet here, guys, Zach Charbonnet, over 20.5 rushing yards. It's -120 to the over. He's gone over in 4 straight, Emerson. I like him to get 21 yards on the ground.
All right, Bukes, let's talk Broncos-Chargers here. Broncos turnover luck finally ran out. Russell Wilson threw 3 interceptions. We saw the Chargers beat your lovely Patriots 6-0 on 2 field goals. What's your bet in this game?
I do like the Chargers in this spot. I grabbed it yesterday at -2.5. It's up to 3 this morning against the Broncos here. But like, this is a defense that I think is built for the Chargers to beat. Like, this is a good bounce back spot for that that offense that put up 6 points against the Patriots last week here. I mean, the Denver Broncos are 11th in passing yards allowed, 5th in passing touchdowns here, over 7 yards per completion against that Broncos secondary at this point. Overall, this Chargers offense has taken a beating when it comes to injuries. But they're still condensing that with Keenan Allen. Like, this should be a big spot for him overall. Quentin Johnson obviously has not been getting involved enough. Austin Eckler, maybe he's not even the starter at this point. I just think this is going to be a game that Herbert's going to be relied upon heavily, and I think this is a matchup that he can capitalize on here. The Broncos have been playing better, don't get me wrong. Obviously, they had that nice winning streak going, but they've been getting really lucky when it comes to some of the stuff that's been going on with them there. Russell Wilson has actually been pretty average at best, but a lot of his production has been coming on the ground. That's where a lot of his production has been coming from, because even in those games that they were winning, he was still passing for under 200 passing yards. I know this is a beatable Chargers secondary, but I do like the Chargers more in this spot here, so I'm taking the points with them here today.
Jules, who do you like in this duel between Justin Herbert and Russell Wilson?
I have no idea. Divisional game.
That's a great
I don't
answer.
know who's going to win this game. I don't want to bet a side in this game, but I will give you something in this game. Cortland Sutton, I think Jeff mentioned him in that segment he was on with Pierce. Good player prop look here. The Chargers defense has not been very good against the pass. They've been very bad against wide receivers. And Cortland Sutton has been very consistent week after week. Even if it takes just getting a long ball, like against Houston last week, he was targeted 7 times, couldn't get on the same page, caught 2 of them, but it was 77 yards and a touchdown in there. So he's been getting targeted deep downfield. You look at him, he's had, over 61 yards in 3 straight games. I just think Sutton has been, a comfort blanket for Russell Wilson. And indoors in LA against that Chargers pass defense, I think this is a good spot for Sutton to continue his success.
Josh, Vikings, Raiders here, both teams coming off bye weeks. Do you have a good feel on this game?
I think so. I think I'm going to go with the Vikings in this spot, Emerson. I like this line move toward Minnesota. You open this game just about Minnesota -1.5. You've now gotten up to Minnesota all the way to -3. Now, these threes are flirting with a move back down to 2.5. But based on the opener to the current, it's really all been movement here toward Minnesota Vikings. Another 50-50 line move. Public's pretty much down the middle, doesn't know where to go. Yet opener to current, it's been all movement here toward Minnesota. Big angle, you mentioned, Emerson, both teams coming off a bye, but if you look at dogs off a bye versus favorites off a bye, huge advantage here to the favorites. Basically, the thought process is, off a bye, the extra time, the better teams will use that extra time more wisely, game preparation. Obviously, it's kind of the same in terms of rehabbing injuries, but it's really the coaching staff that uses that time to their advantage. Road favorites off a bye, nearly 67% against the spread over the last decade or so. Justin Jefferson's back. It's a non-conference favorite. You lean on those non-conference matchups to the better team. And Vikings are fighting for a playoff spot here. Dobbs, I know he struggled late. Maybe that time off helped a little bit, especially getting Jefferson back. I'm going to money line the Vikings, Emerson, minus 150. I just don't want to see them win by 3 and I push my bet, or win by 2 or less and I lose my bet. I'll go money line and hope the Vikings win this game.
And Steve, I was on the Stats Hub on the DK Sportsbook over the last 4 weeks. This is the only game that this system applies to. Over the last 4 weeks, NFC teams 13-4 against the spread when facing an AFC opponent. So that's a cover rate of nearly 77%.
Fine, but I'm taking the under in this game.
Okay.
This is just two slow-paced teams going against each other here. Josh Jacobs, with Pierce at the head coach here, is averaging about 24 touches per game. Like, he's been a massive part of that offense since he's taken over here. Obviously, Aiden O'Connell new at quarterback here as well. But then you got the Vikings, too. They've really slowed down the pace of play since Josh Dobbs has become quarterback. They're averaging 36 plays per game, which is exactly the amount that the Raiders are averaging per game. So this is just a slow-paced game going at it against each other. So you have a total of 40.5 here. I'm going to take the under in this one here, but I will agree with Josh. I do like the Vikings on the money line as well.
All right, Josh, we are going to reward your 5 minutes of work with about a 15-minute break.
Nice.
You two stick with me. We're going to price check next. It's Lamar Jackson worth paying up for in DFS with all the moisture expected there in Baltimore. What do you guys say we put on those DFS caps for about 10 minutes or so, huh? Help people build some money-making lineups. That sound good to you? Sounds good to me. Sounds good to producer Drew. Okay, here we go. Quarterback. Let's get into it. Let's price check. Right? Meow. Your quarterback du jour right now. You go on top of the board, middle. You're looking for some value down below.
Yeah, I think going way down is the way here because I think there's going to be some running backs you're going to want to pay up for on this slate. So I'm going all the way down to Jake Brown and going up against the Colts. I like the Colts.
Good call.
I like the Bengals to win this game. But here's the thing. Salary was released on Monday, which means that Browning's performance from last week wasn't baked into the price this week. So he's only $5,200 despite putting up almost 30 DraftKings fantasy points last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Colts allowing an average of 18.5 DraftKings fantasy points, 243 passing yards, 13 passing touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks. We talk about Browning have his full arsenal of weapons healthy for this game. He's going to have Chase, he's going to have Higgins, he's going to have Boyd. There's a lot of ways that you can beat the Colts in that pretty poor secondary. So I think Browning, $5,200, not only a good value, but should be considered one of the top quarterback plays on this slate.
Yeah.
The ownership is going to be there because of how cheap he is and people want to pay up for like Christian McCaffrey, but I do think he's a really solid play here today.
And some of those down games for him that people are crapping on him about also came against, as you mentioned, some great defenses and also without T. Higgins, who returned last week and was definitely a huge boost for him. You got like a quarterback on today's slate?
So I'm with Steve. I think Browning's probably the best play in terms of points per dollar that you're going to find because of that Monday night situation. All I'll say is that if you want to be a little bit different and pivot off Browning, you can look at a guy like Baker Mayfield, who's $5,300. Obviously, pivoting off, you go with a guy that's a similar salary, get away from the Browning ownership. We had the whole weather segment earlier. You go indoors here to Atlanta with Baker Mayfield. Pretty good receiving core. And an Atlanta defense that ranks 21st in terms of DraftKings fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position. He hasn't had many massive games yet this season, but he's been steady. So if you think a big game is coming today from Baker Mayfield, it's at least a decent pivot off of a guy that's going to be very popular.
Okay, running back, gentlemen. Steve, is this a spot where you need to go towards the top of the board here with Christian McCaffrey? We know he is a point producer week in and week out, or can you go with some cheaper options?
You can definitely do both. I think obviously McCaffrey is the top option on the slate overall. I don't need to explain that to you.
Nope.
Alvin Kamara, too, with the check down king, Derek Carr, is something you're going to be wanting to looking at as well.
PPR machine, baby.
But I do like Bijan Robinson a lot going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, on paper, this doesn't seem like a good matchup because Tampa has been good against the run throughout the year. But we got Robinson now who finally actually has a legit role in this Atlanta offense. He's averaging about 19 carries per game over his last 3 games. Here's the thing with Tampa. They have allowed over 100 rushing yards now in 3 straight games. That was against the 49ers for obvious reasons, the Colts, and Carolina. We talked about that earlier in the show where Hubbard has been a big part of that Carolina offense. Those 3 teams averaged 134 rushing yards in those games. Now, where the numbers get really good for Tampa is that 6 times already this season, they allowed no more than 70 rushing yards. But over the past month or so, that run defense has really been struggling. Now we got Bijan Robinson, who's in a run-first offense for the Falcons here, $6,500. If you're looking to get away from those higher price options like McCaffrey or Kamara, which I don't necessarily recommend, but Robinson at $6,500, I love that play here today.
What's your move at running back this week?
Yeah, we went a little different at quarterback. I will eat some chalk at running back. It's Alvin Kamara at $8,200. You could not be in a better spot than Alvin Kamara is this week. He is at home against a Panthers defense that has allowed the 3rd most DraftKings fantasy points to the running back position. Derek Carr is in, so look for a ton of checkdowns like we talked about. Taysom Hill is out. Take away some red zone carry opportunities to vulture some touchdowns there. Mix all that together, Alvin Kamara is in the absolute perfect scenario today to both put up big numbers in terms of his receptions and potentially get some goal line carries, score you some touchdowns.
All right, Jules, take me to wide receiver here. Pay up spot for you?
Little bit of repetition here. I'm going to talk about Courtland Sutton again and go back to my bet in that Denver and Chargers game. I think Courtland Sutton is priced right in the middle of the wide receiver market here. He's $6,100, but he can get it for you different ways. He's been targeted a lot downfield. You mentioned last week against Houston, 7 targets. It wasn't necessarily there. He caught 2 of them, but he had 77 yards and a touchdown, and the long one was 45. So both balls were deep balls downfield. He's been consistent lately. Russell Wilson's been targeting him, and this is a very good matchup for him. So I think that is a safe, steady wide receiver play here.
All right, Bukes, talk to me about wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm going to go up the board here. I'm going to go with Keenan Allen. We talked about that game. I like the Chargers in this one here. But, like, just the targets here remain so unbelievably consistent for Keenan Allen here. I know he had a quiet game last week, only 5 catches for 58 yards against the Patriots. But when you talk about how this offense has really just condensed to funnel through Keenan Allen, I mean, that's how it's been. And then we continue to get these news and stuff that Austin Eckler may not be benched, or, may be benched, might not be getting the share that he has. So that potentially takes away some targets from the running back position and funnels right through to Keenan Allen here. Since Josh Palmer went down, I believe, in week 8, nobody else has really stepped up to be that wide receiver 2 in this offense. We have Johnson, who's averaging 4.6 targets. We have Guyton, who's averaging 4 targets. Everything is going through Keenan Allen at this point, so I like him a lot here. He is very expensive. Like you mentioned, $8,600, but going up against is Denver's secondary. Obviously, they can double team him if they want, but Keenan Allen has proved week in and week out, even with that double coverage, he's still one of the best receivers in the game. His ownership is only coming in about 10 to 12% at this point. Getting someone with that much of a volume in a game against Denver that I like, I love Keenan Allen here.
Averaging 13 targets per contest over the last 4 weeks. That even included 9 last week in that ugly, just rain-soaked game against the Patriots, and the conditions are obviously much better at home this week against the Broncos. What about in the tight end department here, Jules? Who are you looking at?
Yeah, it's a guy that Josh mentioned to play a prop on him off the top of the show, Mr. Cade Otton, $3,100, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're getting him at a good price because he got shut out last week. Didn't even get a target, I don't think, in that game against the Carolina Panthers. Not great, but I'm expecting better this week. Falcons ranked 25th against the tight end position this season. You're indoors. And this is a guy that generally has been pretty good. He's getting you around 4 catches a week, 8, 9, 10 DK fantasy points. For his price point at $3,100, we're not asking for much here, but if he can mix a touchdown in, that really puts you over the top. I think this is a good way to save a couple bucks, get a guy that's generally been pretty consistent outside of that shutout last week.
What do you think here, Steve?
Yeah, kind of priced in no man's land here. We got Cole Kmet going up against the Detroit Lions with Justin Fields. And this is the important part here. He's averaging 5.3 targets per game, and he actually leads the team in red zone targets with 11. So that's even more than DJ Moore, who's obviously been a huge part of that offense here. The Lions have allowed 6 touchdowns to the tight end position, which is tied for the second most in the league here. But we've seen some really big games here for Kmet. And really, when it comes to tight end, you're either going to be paying all the way up or you're going to be going all the way down the board here like Julian is with Cade Otton. But Kmet here is at $4,300 kind of price within no man's land here. I think this is a really good spot for him against the Lions because I think that game has sneaky shootout potential, even with whatever dumb win things you guys want to make up about this game. But I like Kmet a lot here.
I mean, there's Kelsey at $7,800, and then there's that $1,700 drop off to Laporta. And this is a position that has just been so watered down over the past few seasons. This is really where a lineup can be made or broken, correct?
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, hitting on a cheap tight end can change your lineup, or making the decision to pay up at tight end when other people aren't, and getting the value out of a guy like a Kelsey can change your lineup.
Yeah, and at least talking season long here, DST could do the same thing. Is there one you like today on DraftKings?
Very much. DST is always the easiest for me to pick. What you do is you look at the top, and then you scroll all the way to the bottom and start looking there at the cheapest ones, because you don't want to spend, and there's a whole lot of, things go awry.
Seahawks, Bears, Bills, Chiefs, Rams.
Tied for the cheapest at $2,400 is the Chicago Bears. You're telling me that the Bears at home are priced the same as the Seahawks against a Niners team? That doesn't seem equal. So the Bears, back-to-back weeks, they had 14 DK points last week in Minnesota. They had 9 the week before indoors against this Detroit team. They have multiple sacks in 3 straight weeks. The Bears' defense is improving throughout the season. Now you're at home with the win conditions against a Detroit team that you just saw 2 weeks ago and know in the division. You're going to be better on defense in this game than you were 2 games ago. Not to mention Goff not a guy that likes playing outdoors. You see him come to Foxborough. We've seen him play with the Rams.
Guy. He can't handle when his fingers are numb.
We've seen him play with the Rams in Chicago and get upset in some big games when the Bears were even probably worse. So I really like the Bears at 2,400 on
the forecast for that one, Steve, has calmed down considerably.
Oh, there's a shock.
Oh, well. Still like the Bears.
Yep, that's okay.
Thanks.
Steven, your DST, you're welcome.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with San Francisco. When you look at the projected ownership,
Well,
but here's the thing.
Let me hear it.
When you look at the projected ownership of this defense, it's coming in at sub 5% at this point, despite the likely scenario that Geno Smith is not going to be playing in this game. We're most likely not going to get an announcement about that until after the 1 p.m. game's locked.
Right.
So that is not going to allow people to late swap because it's so expensive at this point. So just do it now. Get San Francisco in there now. You don't have to worry about people late swapping to it later, and then you're going to get that good ownership on San
Sounds like
Francisco.
5 Geno Smith touchdowns to me.
No, absolutely not.
Didn't hear any Cowboys or Eagles players in that segment because they're not on the main slate tonight. Sunday Night Football. We'll dish out some primetime picks coming up, including 2 Monday Night Football games. Time to dish out some primetime picks here on The Sweat, everybody, and the always compelling NFC East rivalry between the Cowboys and the Eagles. Hitting prime time, baby. Sunday night football tonight. And we saw the Cowboys, Bukes, I think it was back in week 9. They just fell short of winning in Philadelphia, and now they are back at home, where I believe they haven't lost all season.
Yep.
And just riding this winning streak. And Dak Prescott in the MVP conversation. Who comes out on top tonight?
I mean, I said it yesterday. I'm backing the Eagles in this game here. I don't think the Eagles are going to lose 2 in a row here, but it's looking like the line could end up getting back to 3.5 at this point is what it's looking like right now. So if you're waiting for that, definitely a shot to get it. But you know, Dallas Goedert is back in the mix. That is huge for that Eagles offense here. I mean, that offense doesn't just come down to, you know, Brown and Devonta Smith, and then you have to run out guys like Quez Watkins and Julio Jones and have to, rely upon those dust players there. Now you get a legit threat in that offense in the middle of the field as well. Philly's still covering at the highest rate in the league. They're 7-3-2, which is the best cover rate in the league. But we talk about here how well Dallas has been playing. Since that loss against Philly, they have been able to beat on the Seahawks, the Commanders, the Panthers, and the Giants. There has not been an actual legit opponent for them to play against since they lost against Philly. And that's kind of what I keep going back to here. I would expect the Cowboys to go ham on those type of teams because those are the teams that the league is beating up on as a whole. So give me the Eagles in this spot here. Again, I think you can get that 3.5. I think we're going to get there before kickoff tonight. But, you know, everybody's on the Dallas at this point. But truly, show me a quality opponent that Dallas has beaten since they lost to the Eagles that last time out.
Only total on the Week 14 board, Josh, that has eclipsed the 50-point total. So 51.5 right now.
And we have seen this thing rise. Emerson open as low as 48.5 up to 51.5. Now, again, primetime games, it's hard not to go under here, but we have seen a little bit of a regression here. The last, I think, 3 primetime games have gone over, so maybe we get a bit of a shootout. Emerson, I'm going to test your knowledge a little bit. Do you know the definition of deja vu?
Oh, yeah, dude. When you think something's happened before, you think about it, and boom, it may or may not have.
That was the definition, Webster Merriam definition right there, my man.
Welcome.
I have deja vu from just last Sunday.
Oh.
This was the same exact spot the Cowboys are in this week that the 49ers were in last week in terms of the public all over the trendy dog, which is Philadelphia. Remember last week, Philly was getting 65% bets. Line went from 49ers pick 'em up to 3, 49ers roll. What's going on in this one? Same sort of thing. You're getting right now 68% of bets going with the trendy dog Philadelphia Eagles. But what's happening with the line? Dallas opened -2.5. They're up to 3. They've gotten up to 3.5 certain times throughout the week. They have a rest versus tired advantage, having last played on Thursday. It's a little bit more time here to get ready for this one. It's a revenge game, having lost earlier to Philly. Home favorites who made the playoffs the previous year are 36-25 ATS, 59%. So if the public is on the Eagles, why does this line keep going to Dallas? This is a sharp reverse line move, guys. I'm going Dallas. I'll go money line just to kind of avoid the 3.5 win by 3 or 3 push the game. Money line -175. We them boys tonight, Emerson.
Jules, Steve says he doesn't see the Eagles losing 2 straight. Some say the Cowboys just have too much firepower to be denied a second time versus Philly. Which side are you on?
Well, we didn't see Kansas City losing 2 straight, and that's what we have coming into today. I give Josh crap on some of the systems. Josh nailed this game.
Attaboy, Julian. Attaboy, Julian.
Hey, man.
Specifically the piece of analysis where this spot is last week's spot. This is San Francisco, who I bet against the Eagles. It's a little bit different in the sense that San Francisco had this circled for a year off the NFC title game to go into Philly and prove who's the better team. But Thursday night game for Dallas and San Francisco coming into it. They get the extra few days rest. In Dallas's case, they're coming off Thursday night at home and playing at home on Sunday night. So a lot of rest, staying at home. Meanwhile, Philly off this whirlwind of you go to Kansas City, get the Monday night win with the second half comeback. Go home, get the overtime win over the Bills. Stay home, get prepped for the Niners game, get beat down by the Niners. Now you got to go out to Dallas, play the Cowboys, who are thinking about that loss in Philly, ready to get a revenge spot. Philly's pass defense has not been very good lately. Now you're going to be playing indoors in Dallas against a Dallas team that, yes, you can't control the teams that are put in front of you, but they're scoring 41 points per game at home this season. I expect the Cowboys to win this game. I'm laying the 3. I'm glad it got back there so we can give it out as a bet on this show. Dallas -3, probably my favorite bet of the week.
Buke's not one, but 2 Monday Night Football games, and for some reason,
Not sure why.
They're starting them both at 8:15 as well.
Give me a 7 o'clock and a 10 o'clock. It's not
Or,
that
or,
hard.
get, or put Red Zone back on for Monday.
Yeah, I love that idea. Anywho, the Dolphins here, Dolphins taking on the Titans. Dolphins have been a cover machine with an offense averaging 32 points, 430 yards per game. Dolphins 4-1 ATS at home, Steve. Titans 0-6 straight up on the road. Kind of feels like a one-sided affair here.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me which side I'm leaning, obviously Dolphins. With the -13, but I'm not playing it either side in this one here. This line is just so egregious. I'm actually going to take a rushing prop, and I'm going to take an alternate line. I'm going to have Raheem Mostert go over 61.5 rushing yards. That's priced at +210 in this game. Why do I like this one so much? Titans are down their best run defender on their defensive line. That's Jeffrey Simmons, who's going to be out in this game here. He's gone over this number 61.5 7 times already this season here. We know that the Dolphins like to run up the score. We've seen it multiple times here, but Mostert is going to be involved in this game. When you're a 13-point favorite, he's going to get some carries in this one here. He has double-digit carries, I think, in 4 of his last 5 games. He should be able to run on what's been a pretty good Titans run defense, but they're down their best guy. Give me Mostert over 61.5. Alternate line, getting that at +210.
So big spread here. After 13.5 between the 49ers and the Seahawks, this one's cooking at 13 right now, Josh.
It's a big one here, Emerson. I don't love laying huge points with the public in a primetime game. Again, I'm kind of with Steve. I lean a little bit toward Miami just in terms of not having seen a ton of buyback here on Tennessee. I mean, you're Miami 12.5 up to 13.5. Again, between today and tomorrow, do we get up to 14? That's something worth monitoring. Currently 81% bets, 89% of the money is going with Miami. I think if you want to, maybe take a different approach here, do you look toward the over? Again, these primetime unders have been great, but we are seeing the regression where these primetime games have been trending over recently. 76% of bets and money are on the over, so it's kind of a pro and Joe bet split, both the public and wise guys, and it has risen 44 up to 46. We know how great this offense can be for Miami. Prop bet here, it's chalky, but Tyreek Hill, over 105.5 receiving yards. It's -115 to the over, a little bit juiced. He's the only receiver who has this prop bet in the hundreds, and I think it's high for a reason. He's gone 100 or more in 3 straight, 8 of his last 12. Tennessee's 22nd in passing defense allowed. And remember, Tyreek Hill is going for that record, Emerson, trying to beat Calvin Johnson. So each game, we're getting down the stretch here, he's going to need to continue to stack these 100-yard games. Again, I'll go over with the game, and I'll look at Tyreek Hill over 105.5.
Jules, quickly, you said you have a bet for this one?
So Miami's been really good as a big favorite this season. Going back to the game where they beat down Denver by 50, they are 6-1 against the spread when they're favored by 6 and more. So they have been covering these games. No, I'm not going to lay the 13. Actually, 2 of the props that I had down were either Mostert rushing over or Tyreek Hill receiving yards over. I think those are both good at home against this Tennessee defense. Another way that you could look at it is just that those guys are going to go off and score points. Miami Dolphins team total over, I would not mind in this game either. I think there's a lot of different angles you can look at for this game.
Who's got something for Giants hosting Green Bay tomorrow night as well? Second Monday night game.
Josh has to be on the Giants.
Yeah.
Are you?
Oh my God! What's going on with you?
I'm a little interested.
I'm
a little interested. Yeah.
Green Bay beats Kansas City. Now you get the Giants. Everybody has to bet Green Bay. I'm not sharp enough to swallow my pride and go to the Giants here, but spot-wise.
DeVito's got some nice cutlets if he's able to cover this number from the Applebaum
so
household to the DeVitos. It actually did move up here to Green Bay. It was -4.5 up to 6.5. I'll wait out and see if we can get a 7 here. I know that's going to be a very popular teaser. 6.5 down to a half point there with Green Bay. I totally get that. But Julian mentions the spot. Obviously, you have the Green Bay Packers who won a huge game, upset in prime time. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're playing well. They're starting to get kind of that public love once again. Wouldn't it make total sense here to kind of buy low, bet against them in the following game? Also, I lean under in this one, guys. It was a total of 37. It really never moved at all, but you are starting to see some books down to 36.5. 46% bets, 66% money is on this under. And you have seen the total when it's less than 39 go under 20-9, 69%. So low scoring game. And I'll cross my fingers that maybe DeVito gets his cutlets and covers.
Yeah, well, Jordan Love is the hotter quarterback in this game. Packers are suddenly the hottest team in the NFL here, Jules. So Love's averaging north of 285 passing yards per game, 8 touchdowns, no picks in this 3-game winning streak right now.
Yeah, I would assume they get the win if you want to tease Green Bay down, but this is probably a spot where the offense slows a little bit going to the Meadowlands in a primetime game.
And
off
Packers
of the
2-4 straight up on the road. So this
Yeah.
could be tight for sure.
I would stay away from looking at, this Packers offense is doing so well. Let me look at some overs on Jordan Love and some of these guys. So be wary. Just be cautious.
All right. Anything you want to add here before we get a break?
No, I mean, Josh hit on it too, like teasing down the Packers, basically to win at this point. I think it is a solid play here. You can pair with something else that you like on this one. There's obviously some egregious lines on here, but if you like, Jacksonville, you can get them up to over 7.5 at this one here. That's something you could do as well.
Emerson.
So
I like
there are some options here, but yeah, I think the Packers win this one.
All right, gentlemen, have those no sweat bets ready. We are wrapping up this program after a 240-second break.
You're watching DraftKings Network's Sunday Pregame Power Up.
right, everyone been having a good time here today, right?
Great day.
time.
Yeah, all right. Can feel the energy. Love
can
it.
feel it. I love
absolutely love, too, how we were able to take this show on the road a little bit this weekend.
Great.
Talked a lot of Army Navy with Ross Tucker yesterday.
Army Navy, huh?
Yeah, or Navy Army, whichever way you want to look at it.
Yeah.
But we also dove into some NFL, and we'd like to go back to a small little nugget from our chat with Ross Tucker earlier in this show. Let's roll the tape.
Yeah, let's roll.
Okay. Ross Tucker was in town to call the Navy-Army game at Gillette.
It's Army-Navy, dude.
What are you
can't say
talking
Navy
about? You can't
first.
say Navy-Army?
It's Army-Navy.
Has anyone ever called it Navy-Army before just this moment?
Literally nobody.
To call the Navy-Army game.
To call the Navy-Army game. Navy-Army game. Navy-Army game.
Now, see, the beautiful thing about that is that, like, you weren't expecting that to come up. We are all in on it here. So let's look at some other classic,
combos on the board.
Yeah, look at that. Last compiled by Latzia Emerson.
What the hell is going on right now?
We're making fun of you for being dumb.
You sit here and you say that you are such a professional, you're
I
always
am
ready.
a professional.
And you can't even get Army Navy correct.
All right, first off, buddy, did you not hear the rest of that interview? It's because I'm from Jacksonville, big Navy town. That's why I did Navy first.
So we came up with some other
Ross
classic
actually
combos
gave you that idea.
that are just not correct at all. And we're questioning whether you know this. Like, does anybody ever say cheese and mac? Like, your reasoning for saying Navy Army, it's hard for me to even say because even I know that that's wrong.
We got some cheese
Yeah,
and mac.
there you go. Look at that right here.
Cheese and mac.
That gives you PTSD, doesn't it, Hughes? I've said cheese and mac before.
That is absolutely
That's
no.
terrifying.
How you're still married is beyond me, quite frankly.
Oh,
I think
we
that's-
don't.
Is that your alter ego? Latvia?
We don't want to open that can right now. You guys are ridiculous because you know what? You've all exposed yourselves as workplace bullies
Good. Tell HR.
to our entire net, and I'm tight with them.
Yeah, good. Tell them. How you're still here is beyond me.
Can we talk about you just had a bad beat with this being a part of this show. Can we talk about that Navy Army total?
Yeah.
Landing on 28.
Oh, Josh.
that
Always
what
get the
happened?
best number. Your boy got under 29 and a half, so I wasn't sweating.
good number.
Sounds pretty good.
We talked about it a little bit on last week's show because I think that was one of your look ahead bets.
And this is
it's
why I do
all
the
about
look-aheads.
it's all about nailing down the opening line compared to the closing line. Why you got to get on some of the action early, right?
A lot of people also had over 27 and a half going on.
Yeah.
What if
Opening
you
line,
middled
line
it?
opening.
Under 29, over 27 and a half, could have been a wise guy play. But that's the point of that early segment we do, Emerson. Get it early. Early bird gets the worm, big man.
I don't know how you middle cheese and mac and meatball and spaghetti.
And remember before the show, you guys were all doubting that I could cook. You said there's no way you could cook, and I said, actually, I make a nice moist French meatball stew.
There's no such thing as a moist French meatball.
Yeah.
Hey, how about some no sweat bets? Or
Okay.
we could do bet no sweats.
I was
I like that.
gonna mix it up like that too.
That's
All right, what do you got today?
All right, we're gonna bet this without sweating it. I showed my hand probably the more passionate of the games with my analysis. I was close to doing the Chiefs. If Dallas was still at 3.5, I was gonna have to go Chiefs money line, but it's not. It's 3. We're laying the 3 with Dallas on Sunday Night Football. As quickly as I can rehashing the spot, it is the same as the Niners last week, maybe without quite as much anger, but close to as much because it's Cowboys and Eagles, and they just went to Philly and lost a few weeks ago. Dallas puts up big numbers at home, and the Eagles are just going through this string of tough opponents. They just went all out in a physical and emotional war against the Niners, and you get smashed in that game, and now you got to go on the road, and Dallas has had all the rest, 3 extra days. They were at home on Thursday night. So on and so on. We're betting the Cowboys confidently on Sunday Night Football.
That loss by the Eagles, too, probably sparked a little change in opinion in them. You could probably see that in the numbers.
Well, or you could have the opinion that the Eagles can't lose 2 in a row, like someone else has the opinion at the desk. So,
Johnny Quarter Zip over here.
Yep.
quarter zip Johnny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you have, Buchanan?
I like the Bengals a lot today going up against the Colts. And a lot of it has to do with what we saw from last week against Jacksonville, which you saw in person.
I did.
You did.
That was a
tough one
That
for
was
you.
a really. Can I just say? Let me open up here. That was a really tough experience for me because it was Christian Kirk getting hurt on the first offensive play of the game for the Jaguars. Kind of battled through that. Trevor Lawrence had one of his best games in terms of numbers. He was on pace for, I think his best rating in his entire professional career.
But he didn't get there.
No, he didn't get there. And then the injury, which, right now all signs point to him playing today in Cleveland.
Which is absurd.
And just really tough how Browning looked like he was Peyton freaking Manning in his prime with the Colts against the Jaguars.
Let's talk about that.
Was really tough.
87% completion rate in that game. And a 94% adjusted completion rate. And if you're not familiar with that, that is basically passes that were on target that weren't caught. So he was almost perfect when he was throwing the ball there. Now you're going up against a Colts secondary that is extremely beatable. He was averaging 9.6 yards per pass attempt in that game against the Jaguars, 354 passing yards. Not expecting that type of performance here today against the Colts, but nonetheless, he has everybody healthy in this game. He's got T. Higgins, he's got Jamar Chase, he's got Tyler Boyd. I think this is a huge spot here for the Bengals. -2.5. Love the Bengals here today.
All right.
Did you just give out the same no sweat bet 2 days in a row?
That's correct.
All right, so that's
a lot of
called a
confidence.
Wait.
that's called
No, this is unfortunate because now he's going to start doing this if it's a Sunday bet, and he's going to start arguing with producer Drew Moore when they're crushing sun chips and cheese sticks together before the show.
You can give out anything I could give out. I could skip NFL today and give out something for Wednesday night in college hoops if I wanted to.
So do it.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just saying that that would be a different play though. So this is the same play 2 days in a row. So this is a 2-unit play.
There you
I don't know
go.
why
Before
that-
we get
I
your
don't know
no
why you
sweat
have to
bet,
do that.
30 minutes ago, Rappaport tweeting out an update on some of the injury concerns floating around the NFL today. Joe Flacco is expected to start for the Browns. Derek Carr going to go. It looks like with rib cartilage fracture.
LFN.
Yeah.
I actually do
Some would
like
say.
the top comment on his tweet there, and he's so right, whoever this guy is.
Jameis
Jameis Winston will be playing by the second half.
Okay.
You're damn right he will be. He absolutely is getting in that game.
If that's the case, and Drew Lock prepared to start, but Geno Smith has not been ruled out yet. The thing is, if Jameis Winston goes, Jules, do he and Bryce Young, after the game or before the game, talk about FSU, Alabama?
Bryce Young and he.
Yeah. All right.
First of all, it's a good thing
Knock
Steve pointing out that guy's name. It's a good thing that guy had a nice, clean Twitter handle.
I confirm first. I confirm.
I don't know. Do they talk about Alabama FSU?
Yeah.
Probably not. I don't
Okay.
know.
All right. No sweat bet time. Just trying to have some light conversation here, and you're just not buying into
So
it.
I got a few for you here, Emerson. Let's
few?
wrap it up. Number one, later tonight, I might get some cream and cookies ice cream. I don't know. Make myself a nice Coke and rum, an adult beverage here, or maybe I'll order out with some chips and fish. Maybe put on one of my favorite shows, Ernie and Bert. Big fan of those when I was a younger lad. And then maybe take my wife out for a movie and a dinner. See what happens. Maybe get lucky tonight, Emerson. I don't know. But I'm going to go with a couple spots
You
tonight.
had the Christmas party last night.
Elijah Moore, over 40.5 receiving yards, -125 to the over, 4-0 to this. Over last four. He just coming off his best game of the year. Flacco targeted him a ton. Flacco starting. Debo, over 50.5 receiving yards, -125. He's lit up the Seahawks multiple times here. I love Julian's play. I'm all in on the boys. Fade the trendy dog play. I'm with Steve, Cincinnati. But just because you guys look at me like I'm crazy.
You are.
I know sweat bet it was going to be the Weedham boys. We're circling the wagons with the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills win outright tonight. Buffalo Bills are desperate, fighting for their playoff lives. Huge rest first tired advantage. Patrick Mahomes has a bunch of injuries on both sides of the ball. Buffalo Bills are going to get it done and win outright at Arrowhead or whatever they call it now.
-1.5
No, it's
now.
still Arrowhead. Yeah, I also witnessed a devastating Jags loss there last year. Really quick, did you have some college basketball bets you were moaning
Get 'em
groaning to
in.
producer Drew
Well,
about?
apparently we got a minute left, so we got some bonus time. We got a good Sunday college hoops card. We usually don't have this, especially after a good Saturday. So where do I want to go here? Let's go. I think the most I like St. John's. St. John's hasn't been that great. They didn't look good in their loss to Michigan when I bet them, but they have been very good since then. They got BC in Brooklyn. They're laying 6 points. St. John's taking some sharp money. I think they can win that one against a bad Boston College team. It's still in New York with some margin there. So St. John's, -6, probably my favorite. You can get the rest at Julian Edlow on Twitter. I tweeted out 4 of them. That's a tease.
All right, everybody. Great stuff today. Really positive stuff. That is that's a show that we call The Sweat. The Line Lombardi is coming up next, followed by Musburger's Kick Off the Countdown.
Musburger Brent.
DraftKings Network Sunday pregame power-up.
To call the Navy-Army game.
To call the Navy-Army game. Navy-Army game. Navy-Army